So in this video, we are going to interpret the slope and y-intercept of the regression line. By the way, this will be the part 3 of our discussion in simple linear regression. Based on the slope, you can determine the relationship between the variables and then interpret its meaning related to this situation. The sign of the slope B is used to identify the trend or direction of relationship between the dependent and independent variable. So we have here the slope as positive. Positive slope means positive relationship between variables x and y. And if we're going to recall our discussion Pearson R, it means if we have the positive slope, then the value of r is positive. So when x value increases, y value also increases. Or if x value decreases, or the lower the x, the lower the y. In this second one, if the value of the slope is negative, it means there is a negative relationship between the variables x and y, meaning if x increases, y decreases, or the higher the x, the lower the y, or the lower the x, the higher the y. And lastly, if b is 0, which rarely happen rather, it means no relationship between x and y. So there is no relationship between x and y. You cannot conclude anything. So the y-intercept can also be interpreted to determine its relevance on a specific situation. All we have to do first is to substitute the value of y into the equation, and then we have to analyze if the value of the dependent and independent variables depict a possible situation between the two variables. Say, by the way, unlike the slope, which is easily determined, analysis of the situation is needed to determine if the y-intercept is relevant with respect to the situation. So we're going to look at the following examples. So we have here a biologist wants to study the relationship between the number of trees per square meter x and the number of birds per square meter y. She produced the equation of the regression line. So we have here y hat equals 3x plus 4. So what does it mean? Since we have here positive 3 as the slope, it means the more trees we have, the more birds there are. And in addition, for every additional tree, you can expect an average of 3 additional birds per square meter. And if you are going to interpret the y-intercept, which is 4, it means that the average number of birds per square meter in an area with no trees is 4. Meaning, even though there is no tree in a certain place, it is expected that there are still birds on that place. This value is relevant because the number of trees can be 0, and it is possible to have a bird in an area without trees, and this is what I'm telling a while ago. To give you the second example, a survey was done to know the relationship between the age in years of a young person and the time in minutes a person can run 1 mile. The data from children between the ages 8 and 15 were collected. The regression equation is y hat equals negative x plus 15. Take note that the values for x ranges from 8 to 15. As we can see, the slope here is negative, and that is negative 1. And the relationship between the two variables is also negative. It means the higher the x, the lower the y. Or the lower the x, the higher the y. In addition, As a young person ages 1 or when his birthday came, it is expected from him to have a decrease in runtime by a minute. The y-intercept here, which is 15, is not relevant because we all know that a child whose age is 0 cannot run at all. It is also stated that the only possible values for x is from 8 to 15. It only goes to show that x being 0 is a violation of the condition for the function y hat equals negative x plus 15. And that is all for the third part of our video.